Sherrod, we've been waiting, so you just have to tell us who you think the Celtics should pick up at the trade deadline.
The guy that I think they can pick up, and it won't cost them, I don't think it'll cost them anyone within their core, is Terrence Ross in Orlando. Right now, Terrence is not having the greatest season in Orlando, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's been stuck in Orlando, and that team sucks. And it's like Evan Fournier got his get-out-of-jail-free card from Orlando. Why can't I? Terrence was in Toronto, and he was playing great.
Mm-hmm.
He is a guy that clearly I think could benefit from a change of scenery, and he has certain skills that this Celtics team could definitely benefit from. He is a guy that is a consistent double-digit scorer, whether he's starting, coming off the bench. If you know you're going to get 10 to 15 points per game from a guy like Terrence Ross, who again, scoring is what he does. That's going to take a lot of pressure off of Ime. That'll take a lot of pressure off Jason and Jalen. They'll have another guy that can go out there and get buckets. And Josh Richardson, who I think is going to, if they trade Schroeder, which I think they will, Josh will be playing more of the playmaking role off the bench. And that would allow, if you bring in a guy like Terrence, to play off the ball, which I think he's very good at. So I think that's the one guy that of all the names I've been hearing out there and all the names that scouts have mentioned to me, and his name makes the most sense in terms of what he brings to the table. It won't cost you a lot, and he keeps the train moving with your team as far as who you're about, and he's not going to really significantly impact your salary cap or anything like that. He's got a couple of years left, but he's making it pretty much the same money as Josh Richardson, so it's not like you've got this long-term, albatross financial thing that you're adding to the mix. So he to me, he's the one guy that makes just the most sense for the Celtics to really be aggressive and in pursuing, and it's not going to, I think, significantly impact your fortunes short or long term.
That's fair. Gary, have you had anyone in mind as we've been talking about the trade deadline over the last few weeks that you think would fit into?
Yeah, I do, but I'm gonna wait to the end of the show to reveal my
so petty.
I hate him.
Just saying. I think Terrence Ross would be the best case scenario, I'll say, for someone that they can get. Now, Orlando's going to have they've already had a fire sale. They traded Aaron Gordon and Evan Fournier last year. They're just going super young. They're terrible this year. They're headed for another lottery. They're just trying to get young. So they're going to want a Romeo, maybe. They're going to want Neesmith. I don't know. They're going to want more young bodies and probably a first-round pick for Terrence Ross. Do you trade another first-round pick? You can't trade this year because you traded last year. Do you give them a 2023 first-rounder for Terrence Ross? I'm sure that would make Orlando interested. I think that'd be best-case scenario. He kills the Celtics. His nickname is the Human Torch, so he can light it up.
Great
nickname.
I like that.
The thing about Terrence Ross is you put him in a winning situation. He won some in Toronto, but Orlando, he's just playing on bad teams, 8th-seeded teams a couple of years. He's never played big games. He's never had a chance to shine. I think you give him a chance to really, really shine. I think he'll flourish. I think that would be a great pickup. You put him around better players in a winning situation, he's going to become someone you can rely on for years. Should they go after a guy like a Kent Bazemore? And I'm just throwing that name out there. The Lakers are he's not playing with the Lakers. He's a veteran who could hit threes off the bench and defend. He's kind of like a higher budget Romeo. He's Romeo, worst case scenario. You hope he doesn't. You know what I'm saying?
An upscale Romeo.
Yeah, no matter how you say it, it always sounds mad rude, even though
he's a Romeo, where you hope Romeo is better than that at that age, but Kwani, stop it.
Sorry.
He's like Big Brother Romeo. He's like Big Brother Romeo.
Yes.
Yeah, you hope Romeo is better than that at that point in his career, but he might not be. He might become a Kent Bazemore, where Kent got a check. Kent got 472 from the Hawks years ago. He's bounced around, but he's not playing for the Lakers. He's a kind of veteran that knows how to play, come off the bench. He's played for the Warriors. He's played in big games. that's a guy, if you want to get a guy on your roster to help, you have an open roster spot, like, do that. Do that. Get a dude who can hit some threes, defend. He's in a new situation because the Lakers are just giving up on him.
Mhm.
Like, that's a guy, like, if you're going to buy low, if you're going to buy a guy, get a guy, and it's not going to cost you a whole lot, he's a guy I probably would go after. I mean, you can talk about Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes. All these dudes are going to take first-round picks and other things. I don't know if Brad's willing to sacrifice how much of the future. Does he want to take on another bad contract? But I think like a Bazemore, because there's going to be a lot of these guys that are just going to be out there with the trade deadline, people looking to clear roster spots. And a lot of guys on the Lakers who signed for the minimum just to try to win a championship, and that ain't worked out.
Yeah, and to your point, Gary, there's going to be opportunities to add guys and not have to devastate your budget, your cap situation to do so. And when you talk about guys like Buddy Hield, those are the type of players that you add to your roster when you have a significant hole in your lineup to fill. And I'm not sure if the vacancy that the Celtics have is a good fit for a Buddy Hield type. He'll come in and he'll do good work, but the impact on your salary cap relative to the impact he makes on the floor, I'm not sure if those two things balance out. I think you're paying a lot more. You're going to get less bang for your buck with a guy like Buddy Hield, who's, again, great shooter. But the actual cost that you're going to have to pay to have a guy like that in the fold and the production that he's going to be able to give you, and not so much because he's not good enough, but because he's just not going to get, I think, the kind of minutes that a player making that kind of money who you want to make an impact is going to get, because Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they ain't going nowhere. They're going to log the majority of the minutes, and I'm not convinced that having him on the floor with those two is a viable option. There are times where it can work, but I just don't. And even if he is on the floor with them, who's got the first shot? Who's got the second shot? Oh, then we're going to come to you, buddy. So I get it, why there's a lot of interest in a guy like that. But to your point, Gary, I think for them in this particular group, it's better to buy guys who can just kind of fill a need for the moment, who aren't going to devastate your future.
Another guy is Kwani, Justin Holiday. Indiana's on a fire sale. He makes $6 million this year, 6.2 next year. He comes cheap. Now, don't give up a number one pick for Justin Holiday, but he's a guy, swing man, can come off the bench, shoot threes, put him in a winning situation. He's Drew and Aaron's brother. He comes from a good family, in terms of basketball, professional guy, and put him in a winning situation too, just the same. And he comes cheap. He's making $6 million this year, $6 million next year. So he's a guy you might want to place a phone call to Indiana and go, what would it take to get us? That's the kind of guy you need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off what Gary's saying, if you notice, as we talk about these different players, there's a common thread that most of them have, and that is this: the teams they play for suck. And
Right.
That's when you're looking to add like good talent at a kind of minimal cost. That's where you're going to find those guys. Guys who are languishing on crappy teams, they are more than happy to get the hell out of Dodge. I mean, if Terrence Ross found out like tonight that he's being traded to Boston, the Celtics, all they got to do is just open the keys to the practice facility, because he's probably on the first plane he can get out of town to get to Boston. You ain't got to worry about, we got to have a conversation.
Remember, folks, Terrence Ross is from what city?
Tell him, G.
Come on, Kwani.
LA. I don't know where he's from. Is he from Toronto?
No, he's from Portland.
Well, I was just gonna throw cities.
Where is the head coach from? Where is the assistant coach from, and half the staff, if not more? Portland. Terrence Ross was a superstar in high school basketball player, played at the University of Washington, so he knows Isaiah.
Connections are there.
Terrence Ross, there's connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Portland guys are deep, stick together. So that would be another draw for a guy like Ime to try to go out there and get a guy like Terrence Ross. He comes to a family of people that know him, that probably know him since he was a superstar in high school, because those guys, I mean, Portland, if you look up their lineage, Damon Stoudemire, the great Terrell Brandon. People do not remember who this dude was. Young people, Google Terrell Brandon, Cleveland
Nice.
Cavaliers.
Cavaliers, all-star.
Yes, just like I would say, like Dame Lillard before Dame Lillard, just a tough, fit guy, but his knees gave out on him.
Injuries crushed his career.
His knees gave out on him about 8 or 9 years into his career in the late 90s. But Terrell Brandon played at Oregon, the same places. So Portland guy. But you bring Ross. That's a connection there. Ross is from Portland. So, and believe me, living in the Pacific Northwest for a while, them cats all stick together and they all know each other. They're very close.
Yeah. And to harp on Sherrod's point about Ross and even Bazemore, a lot of you look at Ross's numbers, and when he was in Toronto, he played pretty well for not being a starter. Orlando, his numbers went up every year, but then there's a point where it drops because obviously you're in Orlando, the team isn't doing well. So to the point of the gym being open for him, I'm sure any player that is not getting the minutes that they want and could just contribute in any way without having to be a star would obviously fit very well into this roster. So I'm sold on that.
I just, again, as someone who's watched him absolutely torch the Celtics time and time again, it just makes a lot of sense to try to add him in the fold, particularly where you are at this point in your growth and development as an organization. And to the point that Gary made earlier about just, getting in a winning situation, we, as much as we talk about how great Isaiah Thomas was when he came to Boston, he wasn't exactly coming from basketball royalty. I mean, he played for the Kings. They sucked. He played for Phoenix. They weren't much better than the Kings. And he comes to Boston. No one really knew exactly what he was going to provide other than maybe a nice little backup for our young emerging point guard, Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart gets hurt.
Too.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think Terrence Ross is cut from that same cloth. I think when he, in Orlando, I think that at some point he thought that maybe we can turn this around. But then he looks around and he sees, damn, Fournier got his get out of jail free card. Aaron Gordon got his get out of jail free card. Damn, Vucevic got his too. Damn.
Yeah.
There's nothing around me. And Jonathan Isaac, who I think will be a very good player if he can stay healthy, again, can't stay healthy. So if you're Terrence Ross, you're looking at your own basketball biological clock. You're not going to get many more chances to be in winning situations. So for him, it would be a great change of scenery for him. And I do think he would thrive being around a team of good players because he has to go back to his days in Toronto. When he's playing with, DeMar DeRozan and MCAS, the last time he played with a really good team of players, not just a couple of a good team. So, yeah, I'm all in on that one.